Well, happy Saturday, January 20th, 2024. First live stream of the year. Fix that here a little bit. And so I scheduled this about 15 minutes ago, and then I saw this new notification in the YouTube thing that said that people won't be able to find me until I go live. So I don't know if I'm misinterpreting that. But I don't know. Usually when I schedule, something, people are waiting, and I don't know if people aren't getting the notifications or what. If you're out there, good morning. I see a couple viewers. So let me know over in the comments how you're doing this morning. Let me know when you got this notification, if it was when I scheduled it or when I actually went live. So we're going to talk about a few things this morning. We'll let some people filter in. I want to talk about document centers. I want to show you the layer 3 switch I'm going to be doing some videos on. And everybody let me know how you're doing over in the chat. So make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Hope everybody's doing well. It's pretty cold here right now. Abram, good morning. Abram says, just got notification. All right, so it looks like maybe I need to schedule this further in advance instead of at 8 o'clock drinking my coffee. I need to I need to live stream. CH, good morning. Everybody's filtering in now that they're getting the notifications. So we'll give everybody a couple minutes. Let's see, today I think it's supposed to be a high of 7 degrees here, and then get cool tonight. And then I think we're going to have that January thaw thing going on. And so with the extreme cold, we've run into some issues. But tomorrow, once the weather warms up a little bit, we'll be able to take a look at it. Good morning, Ronald. Good morning, Richard. Everybody is filing in here this morning, getting some errors. I hope the stream sounds and looks okay. Getting some errors saying that the stream's current bit rate is lower than the recommended bit rate. So I'm going to have to probably adjust that. But everybody's filing in. If you're catching this later on, good morning. Happy January 20th, 2024. Going to be a great year. I think it's going to be a great year. Every year, and life is just full of unexpected challenges and things like that. It's how we respond to it, right, that determines what's going to happen going forward. So, remain positive. Remember, you've got people around you who care about you. All right, so let me, first of all, show you this. So this is the GrandStream GWN 7830. This is one of their layer 3 aggregation switches, and it has 4 SFP plus ports, and then it's got 6 SFP, standard SFP ports, but it is full layer 3, so it'll do OSPF. It's more than just static routing. It'll do dynamic routing, and then you've got 2 Ethernet. You've got a console port over here. This is the first the first rack that I'm gonna put in the top. First switch I'm gonna put in the top of the rack and do the layer 3 videos on. And then I've got a bunch of Ubiquiti XG PON gear for those of you who are wanting to start an ISP. I'm going to be doing those videos yet this month. Then we ran a poll out on YouTube, and if you didn't see it, I asked, do people want to see? People have been asking us like, hey, we know you had a Discord channel, you shut it down. To me, Discord, to scroll back through all of the messages, and I mean, we had hundreds of members, and thank you to everybody, and we had a person who was a great admin, but for me to go back and try to scroll through those messages and things like that, for the community that we're trying to build, Discord's not really right for us. So Tim is actually working on making sure that our forum software gets installed, and so that we can get that up and going. Maybe at some point, like if I get like a week where I'm like, I don't really have any new projects and I don't want to start anything crazy, then maybe I'll throw the BBS back online. But the forum is coming very early in 2024. So I can't wait for that. All right. So one of the other main topics that I had was documentation. And by the way, while we're looking at this stuff, make sure that you're putting your questions and comments in the chat so that when I switch back to it, we can take a look. So I love documentation, and occasionally you'll have a customer who's like, oh, I have to pay you for documentation. Well, yeah, anytime that I'm working on your project is billable, but you have to have documentation. We can't just like make things happen and feel good about handing it over without documentation. Documentation is key. If I get hit by a bus, if James or Tim gets hit by a bus and we have no documentation, that's bad, right? And so I like it when vendors make great documentation. And I think that of the vendors that we work with, and other vendors have this too, but of the primary vendors that we work with, GrandStream, they have a fantastic document center. So it's documentation.grandstream.com, and you can come in here, and they've got it divided by their products. And one of the things that I had asked them, right? So I think hybrid's the future. I've been saying that for years. Part of the problem with the cloud is it is security. And it's not necessarily security in the way we think, but it's trust and trust in others. And trusting in others to do the right thing is sometimes difficult, especially when people are faceless, nameless. And so one of the things that I had asked GrandStream for is a document, that talks about security and things like that. And if you actually go to, and I'll show you how I got here, right? So I'm on documentation.grandstream.com. I went to device management, GDMS, and over here, there's a GDMS security white paper. And so it talks about all of the things that they do to instill trust. And you can read everything here. The other thing that I really like about the GrandStream documentation, not only is it in this format where it's searchable and I don't have to have a PDF viewer, right? I can get to this from any device, but if I want the PDF, if I want to build my offline library where I don't have to go out here, I can download a PDF of every single page of documentation that GrandStream has. It is fantastic. And I will tell you, you're going to see some videos from me very early this year about cloud security, about trust in companies. Should you host things in the cloud? What should you host in the cloud? What's hybrid? What's appropriate for hybrid? What should you never trust anybody to host, right? And there's a lot of decisions and a lot of information that has to be processed to go into those decisions, right? So as an example, like for me, one thing that's okay to put in the clouds are pictures that are not private, right? Like if I've got terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of photos and I don't care if Google processes them, why not let Google store those and I'll have maybe a backup somewhere. But stuff like that, as long as it's not a liability, because the problem with data is when you have it too long and when you have too much of it, it actually becomes a liability. And you're going to hear us talk about that this year too. But I really, really like the GrandStream documentation site. And I know that they have been working on it. And here's another example. So if we go to networking and we go to GWN management, once we're on the GWN management, guess what? They've got another white paper that talks about GWN.cloud security, and I can download it as a PDF. So I really, really, really like this documentation site. It is fantastic. I get written and I can download the PDF. Boom. Fantastic. And I will tell you that a lot of times with so here's the thing, right? We've always talked about these vendors that we work with in this space, that it's the dual-edged sword, right? So the gear is inexpensive enough that anybody can buy it and deploy it. And the bad part is the gear is inexpensive enough that anybody can buy it and deploy it. So it's got its pros and its cons, in that you get people with Sonology, with Grandstream, with Ubiquiti, with TP-Link. You get people who buy the gear, don't understand the nuances to make things work properly, and then they get upset when things don't work, or they had too high of expectations for gear in that price range or feature set because they didn't read, right? Well, I mean, Grandstream with this documentation center, you can go in here. I mean, they have all of the configuration guides. They have all kinds of stuff. We hop over to Sonology, which is kb.sonology.com. And they have a very similar layout. So we've got, surveillance, B drive, NAS, and SAN. So if I click into this, what are some common Synology drive client sync or backup task issues? All these things that they've seen, right? They document it. Now, the one thing that I don't think that I see here is Synology does not do this as they don't do it as a PDF, I don't think. But it's still searchable. It still has so much information. And I don't have to, I can search, but I can get pretty much right to where I need to go. And then down here, it's got to find your product manual and data sheet. So you can scroll through every single device, find product, boom. It takes us right there. We've got our specs, product manual, data sheet, the whole thing right here laid out. Grandstream and Synology killing it when it comes to making documentation highly available. And so Ubiquiti has a couple things, and I've been pushing all of these vendors. I've been emailing them, telling them, because there's one thing that Synology and QNAP have that some of the other vendors don't have, and that is basically a security center, right? Well, before we get into that, let's go back over to Ubiquiti. So Ubiquiti has their help center. One thing that they're doing for security is if you go to community.ui.com, releases, and you scroll down to the filters, and I don't know if you can see this with me here, but if you scroll down to the filters, let me see if I can. So you should be able to see this. There's this only security updates. So you can toggle that on, and it shows you only security updates. So you don't have to filter through all the comments and things like that. Grandstream does something similar on their forum, but they will also send emails and things like that. But I'll show you let's look at the Ubiquiti Help Center. So when you come into the Ubiquiti Help Center, you can do Unify or UISP. So if you haven't been around the Ubiquiti website for a while, EdgeMax is still supported. There's new software coming out, but they have basically taken all their products now and it's divided Unify, UISP, right? So UISP is going to be all of your radios, your edge switches, edge routers, all of your PON stuff, all of that. And Unify, of course, is everything else. So they have right here on the front page, they have this first time setup, migrating your deployment, password recovery. So some common things that you may need. And then you can dive in and you can take a look at consoles and those kinds of things. I don't know that there's a search. I don't know that I see a search on here. And they've got enough information that I think that you can get by with this. I think they're still developing it, if I understand correctly. So we'll have to see where they end up. But let me pull up the QNAP and and the Sonology. And what I've told these vendors is that when you look at the way, and I've told Ubiquiti this, and I've told Grandstream this, that when you look at the way that Synology and QNAP does, they take a beating, right? They take a beating. They got a lot of products out there. They got a lot of software out there. Every time I think I'm going to be able to release a video on QNAP, a dang security vulnerability comes out, and I'm like, yeah, how many people don't have this fixed? So when you look at this, Synology and QNAP have a different perspective on security than some of the other companies. Now, other large companies that we don't necessarily use their products, we can support them, but that we don't push them, have similar sites. And but what I like is I can look at QNAP or Synology, and we can see boom, 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 boom. These are all of the security things that they are aware of, what the status is, what it is, right? So, example, Synology, SA-24:01 DSM, severity important, status ongoing. Last update was the 11th. So if we click into this, a vulnerability allows local users to execute arbitrary code via a susceptible version of DSM. Successful exploitation of this vulnerability requires a user to download a malicious patch from a non-official Synology download site and install it before the vulnerability can be exploited. Here are the affected products. Mitigation, none. So they are, talking about this. Now, who knows how they're actually going to handle it, but it's ongoing. So there's somebody out there, there's a bad actor, if that's the term you want to use, a malicious person that is somehow tricking people into downloading these fake patches. So you got to be careful too. But you can see resolved. They've got one down here that's accepted. So great. We have all the security information we need that is publicly available right here. QNAP, exact same thing. It looks like they are saying that a lot of their stuff is resolved, but I don't know if we can search. We can't search by status. We can search by impact. We can filter by impact or last updated. But they are doing the exact same thing, right? Here you can expand it, get a little bit more information. And then if you hit learn more, now it's going to take us over to this site. So kudos to Synology and QNAP for that, and I'm hoping that other vendors are going to implement that in a similar fashion. All right, let's hop over to the comments. Let's see here. Good morning, JH. Jeremy, good morning. Tech for Fun is Joe. Joe, great to see you too. I knew you couldn't stay away from the YouTube. Welcome back. And yeah. So JH says, I hope you don't use any Citrix products. Yeah, I saw that there was a ton of vulnerabilities out there. Morning, Dave. Ryan. JH says, I'm in the process of pulling out Citrix for a non-cloud connected product. Yeah, and I am switching hypervisors here. If you go back and you look at the video that says that I'm leaving VMware, because I'm leaving VMware. I am leaving VMware in several places, and I've had to order some new hardware, but it's looking like it's for production. For a small cluster, 3 servers is going to come down to Proxmox or XPNG. But if you go look at the video where I talk about leaving VMware, there's so many good suggestions. And I've tried a lot of the software. Some of it, like I wish some of the operating systems were a little bit more up to date. I'm willing to pay, right? It's not like I expect a free ride on the software train. I'm willing to pay. But you have to find projects that have survived and have gotten into where I can pay them, Let's see. Yeah, Jeremy, I'm glad you're here. I enjoy Jeremy's midweek updates. If you don't subscribe to Jeremy, check out Practical IT with Jeremy. And he's got a midweek update that he does. It's like a 6 to 7 minute video, and it kind of gives you a highlight of what's going on in the tech world for the things that he covers. And I watch it every week, and it's full of good information. Brian, good morning. Jacob, good morning. Albert, Irfan, good morning. JH says parallel secure workspace is basically a drop-in replacement for Citrix Cloud. Interesting. So, Dave, I don't know if you saw, but for those of you who are just coming in, this is the first layer 3 Grandstream switch that I will be doing a video on. This is the GWN 7830. It's their layer 3 aggregation switch. And got a focus problem. The camera, not me. And so it's got 4 10 gig SFP plus cages, 6 SFP cages, 2 Ethernets, console port, comes with rack ears, all that good thing, OSPF, and things like that. And if you missed the Grandstream webinar this week, they are going to be releasing so many new products in 2024 that they are full court pressing to challenge the status quo. And as far as some of these other vendors, and I think they're going to do it. They're going to do it. They talked about some of the new, their Wi-Fi 6E is coming out. I can't wait to get my hands on one of those. They're going to push Wi-Fi 7 a little bit further down the road, but it will be in 2024. They've got some new switches, new routers. They are supposed to have some pretty hefty routers coming. So we'll have to see what it looks like. JH says XCP-NG is good for smaller clusters. Larger is hard to replace VMware. And CJH, anytime we talk about that, every time we talk about that, you get people who are like, well, have you ever seen blah, 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 but they can't like point us to a specific place where XP-NG is scaled out. And because here's the thing, right? No matter what we think about Broadcom, no matter what we think about VMware, you cannot say that VMware doesn't work. ESXi and vSphere and vSAN and all of these products, they work. They work as advertised if you understand how to configure them. I'm a VCP, which breaks my heart that all of these shenanigans are going on. Now, is it the death toll for VMware? I don't know. But Nutanix stock is up this week and got upgraded to an overbuy or whatever they call it, right? So, like, there's some things happening that could not be favorable for Broadcom. Or, Broadcom, right? Oh, man. Yeah, Broadcom. Let's see here to the comments. Does the Grandstream switch do VRFS? Don't know. I think we can stack them. That's something different, I know. But there'll be a full video on this, and we'll get logged into it, and we'll take a look around. Ryan says, got called out to replace a switch, and it turns out it wasn't the switch. Suddenly, every drop was either miswired, shorted, or missing pairs. Everything was normal until now. Ever seen that? Well, that's interesting. So here's the thing, right? So cable is not invincible. It's not. You ever seen, Ryan, like when they're trying to put like a sleeve in a motor or something like that, and they freeze it so the metal contracts and they can slide it in? So I have seen where cables get hot or extremely cold, and you're going to get that same thing in cabling, right? Like if it gets super duper cold, the conductors, hold on. And if Alonzo were here, he'd be yelling at me right now because if Alonzo were here, I've got the new webcam. I got a long cable. I've got to get my my office redone. But yeah, and JH is 100% correct that you could see in cold weather, you could see contraction in everything. And Ryan, you and I are very physically close. It got cold. I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier. Like, we got problems with our well pump and that I'm working on, but I'm waiting until tomorrow when it warms up, because I think, based on the behavior that I'm seeing, everybody I'm talking to, the research, that it's because it got extremely, extremely cold. So, yeah. But yeah, I've seen all kinds of weird things happen, and we got a building that we manage that a long time ago, somebody was asked, hey, where do we want to put the server room? Where they put it in an electric room with the main service. And this is a building that has huge, huge service in it. And it's not air conditioned. It's not ideal for a server room. Right. And so, because of the heat there, I mean, cables, they're literally cracking, they're falling apart. So like, it's going to have to be replaced. All right, let's see here. Morning, Cody. Tech for fun. Joe says, but the ports don't light up with pretty colors on that switch. They may not, Joe. We're going to have to find out. Jacob Johnson says, any recommendations on a 4 to 8 bay Synology NAS that won't break the bank? I intend to run the Servio plug-in. Yeah, I think there's a 924, DS 924. I think. Pretty sure. Check that out. Ryan says, I was theorizing a rat went to town on the bundle above the ceiling. Probably not. Probably effects from the weather. Brian Murray says, saw some major fiber failures in Connecticut last week. Yeah. Well, Joe, you would miss the fiber outages because you've got Mr. Router Now Redbox with 15 cellular providers in it. So you wouldn't notice an outage anyway. JH says, Brian Murray, I had some outside plant fiber crack this week because of the cold. Water got into the conduit and froze. Yeah. I mean, it was like negative 20 something here, which is colder than it's been in a long time. And then you get the wind on top of it. We've got one more super long, or not super cold, but I think we're only supposed to get to 7 or 8 degrees today. And then tomorrow, I think we're supposed to be 22. So like tomorrow afternoon, I will continue my diagnosing of the issues. And then we're supposed to go into like January thaw or whatever it is. And people are like, and I'm like, look, winter's a long time from being over, right? Like I remember 3 years ago in April, we got a wet, heavy snow, so much so that it brought down our Buckeye tree. So winter's not over, folks. We might get a little reprieve, but when we think it's done, that's when it'll slam us. Brian says it was their fiber vendor, not an ISP. But Joe is impervious to ISP outages, and I'm all about it. I got a little router envy going on there, Joe. Yeah, Ryan says winter is fine, just don't go outside. It's cold. It's cold. We went to the Shane Gillis show at our Civic Center last week, and when we went, it took us about 17 minutes to get there. It was just a little bit of wind. We came out at like 11:30 at night, and it was super cold, 2 inches of snow on the vehicle, and 40 minutes to get home, right? So, yeah, the 923, Jacob. Check that one out. Ryan, if you want to see the router that I'm talking about, you can go check out Streaming Connecticut. You can also check out Tony's channel, Quick Tech. They did a live stream about it the other night. So, yeah, cellular often can't keep up with people's needs, and not all cellular customers are equal. It's Mr. Net. Yeah, I couldn't remember what it was called. Mr. Coffee, Mr. Net, Mr. Fusion, in that Mr. line. But I forgot where I was going with this. Oh, yeah, cellular, right? So, standard cellular customers, even business customers, get reprioritized on the towers. I mean, you have to have very specific needs or be a government public safety entity to not get reprioritized. So, and I'm sure there's other ways that private business handles it, buying a huge package of data, things like that. But Jade says, currently I'm running 400 gig at one site and 800 gig at the other. Yeah. And Joe says, LOL, Mrs. Net, since all the ports are female. How dare you assume it's gender? All right, so that's really all I had. I'm so excited about documentation centers, and I know that's such a geeky thing to really talk about, but I mean, Synology, QNAP, killing it with the security advisories. If I had to rank documentation center, GrandStream would be number 1, followed by Synology at number 2, and then filter in the rest of the vendors after that. One thing I don't know, let me see real quick. What does the QNAP documentation center look like? They've got this good security thing. Let's see if QNAP has a QNAP documentation center. docs.qnap.com. Who'd have thought it? Well, that's interesting. So docs.qnap.com, maybe you have to view it from a, let's see here. They got a download center. Most places do. I'm not seeing support. Knowledge base. Here we go. All right, so it looks QNAP and Synology, maybe they stole these from each other. They say there's no original art, right? Close, not close. This actually looks I don't know, because you can filter. Let's see what happens. Knowledge Center. Y'all like watch me fumble around here. Somewhere there were check boxes on the sides like this. Now I can't find it. But anyway, QNAP also has a very nice looking knowledge center, but I still have to give it to GrandStream with the PDFs. Let's see, let's see. Does QNAP do the PDFs? Nope. No PDF. So I'm giving winner, chicken dinner to GrandStream because their documentation center is beautiful. And I use it frequently. I also use some of the downloads that they have for P codes and things like that, because you can do a lot of configuration behind the scenes with your UCM and templates using P codes that you can't do, normally. So, I'm not saying you can't do it normally, but you would have to manually configure every phone, and when you use templates, whoosh, it just pushes it to all the phones. So, JH says, I'd love to have a TurnKey Linux with a DY documentation center to use internally, not just a wiki like most places use. Yeah, and I don't know what they're using. I haven't dug into it, but check out TurnKey Linux and see if they have something. So I actually have a web server running. Oh, here's a question for all of you who are out there. So have you ever seen where a web server is serving a page and it works fine on every browser, on every device except for Safari? Safari refuses to connect to it, but it works fine for everybody else. Has anybody run into this? I'm struggling with this and I can't figure it out, and I've been searching for days and days and days, and I am not getting any clear answers. Somebody let me know if you have run into that. And yeah, I love TurnKey Linux. They provide those ISOs with everything pre-installed, super easy to fire up in a VM or on bare metal. Choose a cloud provider. maybe a PCAP might solve it. But it's Safari on all Apple products, JH. It's not just iOS and macOS. It is literally just Safari, because if I open Firefox, if I open Chrome on an iOS or a macOS device, the website works properly. Safari, what the F? It's Apache, Brian. And the weird thing is, there's a secondary site, website running there. It works just fine. Works just fine. So I don't know. But it's a TurnKey Linux distribution, so I'm thinking about blowing it out and building it from scratch like I did with the other web server, just to see if it's something crazy going on where they put all the pieces together that I don't know about. It doesn't access it at all, right? So yeah, it's and if you go out there and you do a Google search for Safari not able to open website, you'll see other people having this problem, but I haven't seen like the silver bullet, you know what I mean? So, all right, everybody, have a fantastic January 20th, 24. I want to thank you for spending a little bit of time with me here this morning. We'll figure this live streaming thing out, get back into it in 2024. We are working on Bits and Bourbon. We've got an official logo. Tim is putting the finishing touches on that. So the Bits and Bourbon and the How Tasteful website will be up and going pretty soon. So, and then you'll see the socials there. I'm aligning all my social media this year. So once I push something outside of YouTube, it will go to all of my social media channels. We're seeing that kind of stuff. But JH, there is a load balancer, and that might be part of the issue. But I appreciate all of you for spending some time on this frozen Saturday morning, and we've got to get going. I'm not going to shave, but I got to shower and get ready for the day. So I want to thank you all for being here. If you want to reach out, you've got my email address. You've got the williehowe.com. Thanks for spending time with me here this morning. And as always, I will see y'all in the next video.